When I say let's make some meatballs, this is usually what I mean. Meatballs that are baked, juicy, and tender in the inside, and then we coat them in a sweet sauce. This is my version of baby shower meatballs. To make these meatballs, you're gonna need 1 pound of ground beef, 1 teaspoon of garlic paste, half a cup of breadcrumbs, 2 whole eggs, 1.5 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 cup of milk, 1/4 cup of grated parmesan cheese, some fresh parsley in for the sauce, water, barbecue sauce, and guava paste. Now we're gonna start by prepping the parsley. And in my case, I like using the whole thing. I really don't like wasting any food, so I chop the leaves and the stems together. I only cut a little bit in the end if it seems damaged or brownish, but if not, I'll use the whole thing. And for this recipe, I only added 2 twigs, but you could always add more parsley if you like. Then once we're done with our parsley, then we're gonna move on to the cheese. I like to grate my own Parmesan cheese because I feel like the pre-grated one from the supermarket tends to be like harder in texture, but if that's all you have, then you could use that. And now in a big bowl, we're gonna add all of our ingredients. But before adding the eggs, I like to beat them separately before adding them to the bowl. I always do it this way because I feel like it's easier to mix in the eggs with the rest of the ingredients if they are already beaten, or just add the eggs on the side of the bowl that you're gonna use and just beat them there. Then we just need to add the rest of the ingredients. We're gonna add the salt, the pepper, the parsley, the breadcrumbs. Then we're gonna add the milk, which I suggest that you leave it in your fridge until you're ready to use to make sure it's cold. This is gonna help to keep all the mixture cold. And last, we're gonna add the garlic paste, and we also gonna add the cheese. Sometimes when I make this recipe, I like to add half a cup of cheese, but for this one specifically, I only use 1/4 cup of the cheese. So you can always add more cheese if you like. Then we're gonna mix our ingredients together. Now, if you look here, you kind of see me struggling to mix this, and it's because my meat was cold, and that's exactly how you want your meat to be. I always do it this way because I believe that the cold meat will help us shape the meatballs better. Now we're gonna make the meatballs, and for this I used 1 tablespoon because each meatball is gonna be about 2 tablespoons of meat. Now, after doing this, I quickly realized that the tablespoon was a bad idea. And this is because the meat was hard to get out. I usually don't use a tablespoon. I just eyeball it and make each one because I know most of the time if I make it this size, I'll get about 16 meatballs. So please just learn from my mistakes and get yourself a small ice cream scoop. Trust me, an ice cream scoop is going to save you so much time. Now, shaping the meatballs is not hard at all. Just put the meat mixture in your hands and roll until you form a ball. Now, to shape each ball, it shouldn't take you more than 15, max 30 seconds. This is because the longer you keep the meat in your hands, the warmer the mixture is gonna get. Then the fat of the meat starts melting and your hands are gonna start to get sticky. And this can happen quick if you're making this on a hot summer day. And this is how your meatballs should look. You see, for me, they are a decent size. They're not on the small side, I'll tell you that, but they're not too big. But remember, size is just a preference. You can make the meatballs smaller or bigger. Just keep in mind that you get more or less depending on how big they are. Oh, and a tip that I have for you is that if your hands start getting sticky, add a little bit of cooking spray to your hand or a little bit of oil, and this is gonna help the meat not stick to your hands while rolling. And after you shape your meatballs, make sure that you place them like in a flat surface until you're ready to cook them. Now, to cook the meatballs, I like using a baking tray with a rack. This is gonna help the meatballs to drip all the excess fat. Then all I'm gonna do is spray some nonstick cooking spray to the rack, and then I'm gonna place the meatballs. This is done so the meatballs won't stick to the tray while cooking. Now, by this step, you could freeze your meatballs if you're not ready to make them. You just got to make sure that when you freeze them flat, and once they're frozen or a little hard, then you can add them to a freezer bag and just store them. But if you're ready to cook the meatballs, just place them on the rack. Just make sure that they have at least 1 inch of space in between them. And preheat your oven to 425. But if you don't have an oven, you can make these in the air fryer. Just make sure that you lightly spray the meatballs with a little bit of oil before cooking them. Now, if you use a regular oven, you need to cook these for 24 minutes. You just need to make sure that halfway through, you flip them so they could brown evenly. Now, this recipe, you could cook it for only 20 minutes and the meatballs are gonna be cooked. But I like my meatballs to have a nice brown color and a little bit crispy on the outside. And this is how they look after you cook them for 24 minutes. And while the meatballs cool down, we make the sauce. Now remember, this is a version of baby shower meatballs. And baby shower meatballs tend to be sweet. So what I'm using instead of the grape jam, we're gonna use guava paste. Now you need a pan over medium heat. But before adding the guava paste, I always like to put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds so it could get softer. Then once I have it in my pan, I keep mashing so it could get smoother. The guava paste is the perfect substitute for the grape jam because it's not only sweet, but it has a little bit of sourness in it. And as the guava gets hot, it's gonna get smoother and softer. Now here I have my baby helping me. So you can see this is not a hard recipe. It's fairly simple. Now with the guava, we're just gonna keep on mashing and we're gonna move it around while it cooks, while it heats up, because you don't wanna leave it unattended because the guava paste has a lot of sugar and you don't want it to burn. But once you see that your guava paste is almost liquefied, then you know you're ready to add your next ingredient, which is gonna be the barbecue sauce. And for the barbecue sauce, I like to add it little by little, mix, then add a little bit more because I wanna make sure I incorporate it well with the guava paste. And when using a barbecue sauce, I feel like the brand is important, but it gotta be important to you. The barbecue sauce gotta be one that you like because it's gonna change the flavor. Here, I'm gonna show you the one I like to use, but you use whatever you prefer. Now, once you added all of the barbecue sauce, then you're gonna add the water. And again, you're gonna add it little by little, just like with the barbecue sauce, because you wanna make sure to incorporate the water well. Now, you're gonna see the sauce and you may think this is a lot of sauce, but hear me out. Having a lot of sauce is good because if you wanna heat this up in a crock pot, your meatballs are not gonna go dry. If you wanna save some for later so you could pour over, then you'll have some extra sauce. And also because nobody likes dry meatballs. Now in my case, I like the extra sauce because I tend to eat the meatballs with rice or over French fries. I don't know if that's weird, but it's delicious. Now, depending on how you like your sauce, you can reduce your sauce, cook it a little longer if you like it thicker. And then once you start seeing that the sauce starts simmering, that's when you're gonna add back your meatballs and you want to cook them for 6 minutes. Technically, you don't have to add the meatballs to the sauce to cook them a little longer. You could just pour the sauce over the meatballs. But I feel that the sauce sticks better. I don't know if you cook the meatballs with the sauce at the same time. But this is just a preference thing. But give it a try and you let me know if you like it. Now, if you want to add some spiciness to the recipe, this is the time to add red chili flakes. And trust me, it's going to be a delicious sweet and spicy sauce. And here again, I have my helper helping me move the meatballs around so they can all be nicely coated with the sauce. Just make sure that when you add the meatballs, you toss them around a little bit to make sure that they're completely covered. Every little crease, you want them covered with the sweet sauce. And after 6 minutes, you should have completely coated meatballs with plenty of sauce left. Then what I like to do to finish off my meatballs is I take fresh parsley, I chop it and just sprinkle it over. And then your delicious meatballs are gonna be ready. This is one of those recipes that is great to make any day of the week for dinner, but even better to make and take for. They are super delicious and they are a hit in parties. This is one of those recipes that are perfect because they could be your dinner, they could be an appetizer, or just a snack. I will leave a link of the ice cream scoop in the links just in case you want to get it. I will also leave the link to the recipe just in case you want to print out the recipe. And if you got here, thank you so much for watching the recipe. Any comments, questions, just leave them below and when I read them, I'll answer you. I hope you enjoy it. Buen provecho. See you on the next video.